CAPSI podcast series, Conversations on African Philanthropy.
It's our 6th year of the African Conference on African Philanthropy. Everywhere where we go, we take the opportunity to experience the place, to experience the culture, but to also showcase the country in which we are doing the conference in. But we also use the opportunity to speak to delegates, record them for our conversations on African philanthropy. So welcome to the Conversations on African Philanthropy on the Nile River, where we are shooting some of our episodes. And in the next 5 days or so, we'll be speaking to different delegates, different actors, activists, foundations, government officials, researchers, you name it all. You want to find anything to do with African philanthropy, visit our channel on YouTube and other platforms, our Conversations on African Philanthropy. Welcome to yet another exciting episode on Conversations on African Philanthropy with me, Bhekinkosi Moyo. We're shooting this episode in Cairo at the American University in Cairo in the margins of the 6th conference of the African Philanthropy platforms, popularly known as the Africa Philanthropy Conference. I'm really excited this morning to be joined by Zanele Makombe in your new capacity as the head of programs at Slum International. Welcome, Zanele.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Zanele is not alone. She's traveling with Kamila, Gojobe, a community organizer with the Slum Dwellers movement in Kenya, Muungano wana Vijiji. I said it right?
Muungano wana Vijiji, yes.
Welcome,
Kamila.
I practiced to say it properly, but still, I didn't get it right.
Yes.
But we'll get it right later. So welcome to the conversations.
Thank you.
I was saying that when you were introduced by Zanele, I immediately thought, let's record your story. But we'll come back to you. I just want to start with Zanele. And let's talk about your transition. From Ektu Bumbano, and 3 months later, you are with Slum Dwellers International. How was the transition?
How exciting, the new era. So moving from Ektu Bumbano, a social justice organization, to Slum Dwellers International, where we're working with slums and making sure we're upgrading slum communities. It's been an exciting journey. What has been new is now we're beginning to do a lot of slogans, Halala movement, Halala SDI, Halala Federation. So it's a new era and there's a different space altogether.
Yeah. And of course, part of the transition also means a certain space where you are closing, where you've come from, and opening new doors and opportunities, like you said. Usually, most people, when they do that transition, there's a space there where it's a bit dark. You're uncertain. Has that phase ended for you?
I think I'm still going through the phase of learning, because you're moving for a space where you were an activist, where you were actually leading an organization for over 8 years. Coming to a space where you're actually learning and new, because I'm moving into a space where it's a network.
Yeah.
It's a collective of over 23 organizations, 23 countries and federations. And so you're also going back into deeper programming work. So it's also an interesting space that you're also going back into the programs and dealing with donor differently. And also you're also trying to see how can I bring my old thinking and my old understanding.
Yeah. So what did you take from your previous preoccupations, in particular Ektu Bumbano, to this new position in the new organization?
What I'm taking from Ektu Bumbano is the work we did with donors, with funding partners, around challenging power, around pushing back on particular areas of work. I'm finding that with SDI, we are engaging with quite a number of donors. And so we're still at the stage where we are also trying to find our feet, trying to see how can we connect the movement that we are representing, the urban poor, and also with donors, but at the same place, how do we actually make sure that also donors support our priorities as the movement?
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about Slum Dwellers International. What's the what's the mandate, the mission, the vision, what's the geographical coverage, and what would you put out there as the key programmatic pillars?
Okay, Slum Dwellers International is a movement. It's a movement of the urban poor communities, where we're finding that we've got over 1 billion people living in slums. They've been made invisible, they've been unseen, and also they haven't been included in most of the urban planning work that happens in our communities. So as SDI and affiliates and federations were saying, can you see us, we are here. So in the work that we're doing, we do a lot of mapping of slums so that they are included in urban plans, so that they are also recognized as people in the settings. And also we do a lot of work around tenure, land tenure, provision of social services, and also we keep saying the slogan that I like, slum upgrading.
Yeah.
How do we do that? Because instead of us responding to slum dwellers with humanitarian aid, it's important, but also we're saying, how do we make the spaces decent for people to live in? How do we provide social services so that they've got access to different resources? So this is what we're looking at. So we've done a lot of work around building houses, upgrading. I know in Zambia we've done a lot of work on that. And upgrading communities, having roads, having green spaces. And we do a lot of work around locally led development and locally led adaptation. So we also provide small grants, which we call catalytic grants, to enable communities to do the work themselves.
Yeah.
Contrary to people's belief, you know, when they say slums are not organized, they are. And people, they are living their lives. How do we make sure we tap into their knowledge and we support them based on the priorities they have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I'm right, you said you've been with the organization now for over 3 months, which would probably, in organizational terms, would say you've done your first 100 days.
Yeah.
How have been the first 100 days? Some are accepted immediately by the system, others are rejected, and some negotiate. How have been your first 100 days?
You know, I've consulted quite a number of women leaders around my first 100 days. How do you do things differently? I think in terms of the workload, in terms of the system, it's quite a huge system.
Yeah.
SDI has been in existence for the last 30 years. So if people have been there for 30 years, you're also navigating spaces in terms of how things are done, the politics, because you are starting from communities, they're organized in federations, small groupings, which then link to the NGO, which are the professional organizations, and also to the secretariat.
Yeah.
We know the dynamics of secretariat network issues. So the first 100 days have been about getting to know the network, getting to know the individuals. And I guess I've been enjoying settling in, you know. Yeah, also learning to manage the different people and the different personalities. But also you're trying to also think, you know, coming from a near activist space, where you're saying, I would never do that. You know, you're questioning everything that happens. But it's also being aware that sometimes you need to step back to allow processes to happen.
And relearn. Relearn as well.
But there's a strategy that lives with us, but also translating strategy into action has been a big thing. And if we found a strategy in place, how do people speak about the strategy? Or people speak about their knowledge because they've done it and they've lived it. So it's also understanding all those things.
The cultural interpreters.
The spirit mediums. You've called them the cultural interpreters. You've got people who've lived there for so long. You also acknowledge the changes in movements. Previously, movements, we could actually go and demand accountability. Now we are finding that movements have slowed down. They are much more structured. So coming in as a new person and you're saying, but this has changed. How do we do it differently? We still don't have the money that we used to have. So how do we do things differently? How do we make sure we're ahead? I know we keep saying we want slum dwellers to speak for themselves, but we can't bring everyone
to the table.
And you know there are limitations around visas and what have you. So how do we enable those who can
Yeah.
to actually be able to raise,
Yeah.
to amplify concerns of slum
Yeah.
dwellers.
So talking about slum dwellers speaking for themselves, you are not alone.
Absolutely.
Do you mind introducing our guest?
Yes. So I don't mind at all. So you find that we say we do not speak for slum dwellers. So we enable, in all the critical spaces, we always bring someone to speak for themselves, and we create that platform. And thankfully, you created that platform for us. So today I'm with Kamila, a young person who's part of the SDI Federation.
So, Kamila, I deliberately started with, talking about institutional issues, Zanele, in particular the transitions that happen, because, the job market, but also experiences are such that people move from one organization to the other. And it's always a good learning moment when somebody moves from one organization to the other. As you heard, there are issues about finding a strategy already in place. What do you do? Right? It's already there. Probably it's 3-4 years to go. How do you work with a strategy that is in place? And you have got new ideas. How do you implement new ideas in an existing strategy? You find people who are there. Some of them have been there for several years. They've gotten accustomed to certain ways of doing things. How do you encourage them and nudge them to see things a bit differently? Because the reason why you are from outside is because the organization wants a bit of fresh thinking, new ways of doing things. Otherwise, then why change the formula? They would have kept the same team, right? Yeah. So again, it's another moment of understanding how do you do that in such a way that you still bring along those that you found, but they also see the need to change and do things differently. But also moments of uncertainty, because you've just moved from one context to the other. There are certain times when you really feel like, am I doing things right or am I doing them wrong, and so forth and so on. So as a young person, I wanted you to just hear that conversation. But honestly speaking, what we are really, really wanting to hear from you is a bit about yourself. So you've been introduced, but I want to hear who you are. You said you are a community organizer with the slum dwellers in Kenya, a movement. So maybe tell us a bit about yourself. Choose what you want to tell us, and what you don't want the world to know, you also keep it to yourself for now. You still have a long way to go to actually tell your story in phases. So just tell that which is of importance to you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And when you ask who you are, and I'm thinking a while back when I joined the movement and who I was and how I integrated in the movement and why I'm even a part of the movement, why it is important to me. So I'm Kamila Gojobe, and I come from one of the biggest informal settlements in Nairobi. It's known as Mukuru. Mukuru, it's big. It's in 4 constituencies within Nairobi, sort of like 4 districts. Let's say locations, it's different, it's big. And growing up, life in informal settlements, it's different. You don't get to see what is out there if you don't go out there. And you're raised with the bare minimum, with the struggles, and you just think that is normal. But growing up and getting to move out here, you get to see new things and get to think, no, that is not fair. That is not fair for me, that is not fair for my people, and we matter in the city. And I joined the movement when I was 22 years old, and I had it was 3 years after I finished high school, and I couldn't place myself anywhere within the informal settlement. My parents didn't have the funds to take me to school, so I was just there, and I wanted to be a part of more and give more to the people. And Muungano na Vijiji offered that.
Yeah.
We went first. They were doing organizing through in Mukuru. It's known as Mukuru Special Planning Area, and it was organizing women, youth to be a part and say what's the problem, what's the solution. It was more for co-designing and co-creation of improving Mukuru infrastructure. So that was interesting because we're talking about developing our community, and I got really interested first. I was told to come and join as a media team. We have KYC TV in the city. That is how I got to be mobilized.
Yeah.
So a lot of young people were not in the movement, and because the movement talks of land, housing, and services, for the young people we think, why do I need? I don't have a house.
Yeah.
I don't have land.
Yeah.
I don't need that. So we don't get to be involved in the movement. So at that time, the organization thought maybe it will be different to involve the youth in a different way, and that is through a creative space where maybe we could take photos, write up our stories.
Yeah.
And that interested me because I was not doing anything and I really wanted to get involved. So that is how I joined the movement. And now I'm in the movement, we were trained on media, photography, film, and it's just to tell our own stories. So I got in and I got really interested, and we're capturing pictures, we're telling our own stories. It is not defined by anyone.
Yeah.
I get to tell how I see it and how I know it. And it's not from the mainstream media where they get to tell our problems, the slum are like this. So this is a space to actually tell the real voice, the solutions, and that was quite well.
Yeah.
And so right now I'm 7 years into the movement, and I've grown and I've shifted from even getting to the media space and more into now the organizing and the advocacy part. So the movement offers mentorship. So we have people who have been there for 10 years, 15 years. They know how things have been done.
Yeah.
They know the struggles there have been, because even with the struggles, how to do advocacy shifts throughout. So for example, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, people used to go to demonstrations because there were a lot of evictions in former settlement. But right now in the movement, we have the government on board. It's more of conversation, dialogue, and say, how do you provide and how do we go about it? So we have that mentorship from the senior team. So throughout, I've grown my interest in writing and taking photos, but also gone now into community organizing, where I organize groups, mostly youth and women, and to just help them see why it is important for us to come together, and the power of advocacy has to be done when all of you are involved. It can't be one person, it can't be two people, it has to be the whole community. So right now, mostly it's organizing, mentoring, also young people who are coming on board, because I've been there, I know how it goes. So it's mentoring more of them. And just continuing with what we do and upscaling that, because a solution can't come at one go. So every time there are new challenges and you have to come up with new solutions. So we organize more people to be in the movement. And as Zanele said, we use data, and it's community-led data. And these young people are the ones, and the women are the ones who are leading in collecting data, in, doing the whole thing, mapping the whole thing. And at the end, we're the ones who go and sit with the government and tell them, we have the data, we know this is the problem, and we also know how to go about it.
Let me ask you this. So since you've been with the movement, I think for 4 years, 7. What are you hearing young people saying? These are our key issues. And when you go to government, what are the policy requests or asks that the movement has been requesting government to focus on?
So when you go to different former settlements, the priorities are different. And mostly the priorities won't lie with upgrading, but you'll find the youth saying, oh, we need jobs. There are different things they need, but we can't always say we need jobs. So most have turned into creating their own employment within the informal settlements. So one of the things we do when we sit with the government, it's seeing how to integrate all these things the people are saying in formal settlements, the youth are saying, into the CIDPs, that is integrated development within the county level. So mostly we usually have public, how is it called? the public meetings where the government brings
public
their
consultations or
plans.
hearings,
Yes, yes. Mostly, they just do it for the sake of doing it. They don't. They'll come with a paper. They say this and this and this. They'll make you feel you've given view, but in real sense, you haven't given view.
They've already made up their
yes,
mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one of the things that helps us with the partnership is we get now to sit with the movement and the government and say, these are our priorities, and then it gets pushed to the development. For example, right now in Kenya, most of the youth are into adaptation planning, and they're rethinking about the spaces within the informal settlements, and they're thinking about having green spaces, having parks, small parks, because we are congested, we don't have those spaces. So they are recreating that. And they can't do that without the support of the government, because some of the plans are supposed to be there, but they're not included. So we are also pushing that. That is even in different counties. We're pushing that in those plans, government plans. And now we're seeing them even coming to implement, not alone, but together with the youth and the community itself.
Yeah. Okay, so thanks for that, because I think it's important for us to understand how the movement is organized, but also how young people and women, you kept really emphasizing young people and women are part of the active vibrance of the movement, but also the organizing and consultative processes. But what have you found to be some of the big challenges that the movement is facing right now?
So right now, I would say it's sort of like different, and I will put it in the government context. As the government shifts, some of the priorities are not taken up with the government. You know, it's sort of like a dialogue. You can't do it. The whole point of us organizing and doing advocacy, it's to show to the government we want to be seen and we want these things. And sometimes a government listens, and sometimes we have a government that doesn't listen. So that becomes a mismatch, because, for example, if the government is not listening, it's a environment sector, for example, they're not able to implement some of the things you need in that community. So that will be a problem. And another problem is, I would say, funds. For movement to grow and for some of the things to like really see the impact, there must be funds to support that, and not just from the government, even from other donors. And so you find, for example, in Nairobi itself, we have almost 102 or 150 something informal settlements. And for you to go into all those informal settlements, organize, help with advocacy, it can't work without the funds. And sometimes you'll find donors coming and even prioritizing one area. And you see, for you're in all these informal settlements, and you don't know even how to pick or say how to even support these others. So sometimes that is a challenge. And in informal settlements, I think also the economic downfall, especially now in Kenya, we're having taxes that are very high. People are not getting jobs the way they used to get. And that becomes difficult because people can prioritize, they prioritize, do I go and get my job that I get usually, or do I stay here and do advocacy? So it becomes sort of like you can't pull everyone in the movement, because people, some are losing hope. Like they want to, get the small shillings, and they can't do anything else. So
Thanks. So Zanele, you are here. You're traveling with Kamila as well, but we are attending the 6th version of the African Philanthropy Conference. What do you hope to achieve? Firstly, as Slum Dwellers International, but also for some of the movements, such as Kamila's movement.
First, before I respond to that, I wanted to talk about the women that you mentioned in the slums. One of the things that I kept hearing in all the meetings as I was doing my onboarding is around, we may be homeless, but we're not hopeless. Because one of the things that is then seen is that when people are in slums, they have no hope, there's nothing that's going to happen. But it's increasing that we find that they are showing us that we deserve the respect that we deserve respect. We shouldn't be dehumanized, because we look at slums and we see poverty, we are seeing crime, we're seeing all these things, but there are people living their lives.
Yeah.
And how do we make sure that we support them as they live their lives? And one other thing that keeps coming up that we know is that Slum Dwellers International is women-led.
Yeah.
And so we are finding from the grassroots all the way up, the leadership room is led by women. And so women are holding the fort in terms of small savings groups, in terms of small grants, in terms of adaptation processes. This is what women are doing. So Kamila is the next tier level generation of leaders who's coming up. So we're supporting all that. So in terms of the African Philanthropy Conference, for us it's also to make visible slum dwellers. We haven't had conversations about the urban poor. They are also forgotten and marginalized. We talk of rural communities, we talk of other people, but we forget the urban poor. If we're making a population of 1 billion people in these communities, surely something should happen there in those communities. When we also talk about, climate change, and we are the most affected as the urban poor. So how can we also support those spaces? And also we're coming here as SDI. What I'm seeing is that in most cases we've spoken about how do we involve the community? What initiatives are there? And we're saying as SDI, we've got elements or we've got initiatives or models or approaches where the communities are at the center of development. Because all our work is informed by the federations or the communities themselves. And when we're sitting with funding partners and donors, we say even the data or the information we're collecting belongs to the communities. So it's really about the famous word we used to use at Ektobumbana, upending, all those conversations, starting with the communities at the center of all our development.
And for you, Kamila, I'm assuming this is your first time attending this platform. It's a bit complex in the sense that it starts with academic sessions, and then you'll have the main conference, and so many themes, so many interests, and competing interests as well. So you might find yourself drawn to this session, and there's another session there. But really to use the opportunity for you to also network as much as possible with the different actors who are here. But you just didn't get on a plane. You had some agenda. What do you seek to achieve with this participation?
So I'll start with a few sessions that I've been in. And it's some of, like yesterday, I was in a session that was talking about financial structures, and they were talking about how organizations are working and how to decolonize funding. And in all the conversation, I'm trying to see where do we fit in. So as a community person, what do I say? Because they're talking about this big organization, this and that and that. And I'm just thinking, where do we sit in this conversation? But I'm also trying, today we also had a conversation about the whole philanthropy, who it supports, the grassroots, and I'm thinking, yes, here we are. But I still don't see where we are. But one of the things I really want to input in this, it's the community initiative that is happening, and the kind of investments community are doing locally. And I'm hoping to air that out, to share that and see, give people different perspective of community and what they're doing. And I'm hoping to also meet a lot of people who are willing to, fund these initiatives and so that we can scale up. So that is my key agenda.
So you definitely have many conversations with people who are here. There's also a group of several donors, local, international, other philanthropic institutions across the continent. In fact, when you were talking about some of the ways in which you work and how you organize in the community, for me, I immediately saw that one of the big resources is actually the community itself. And philanthropy really starts with solidarity mechanisms within and among members and communities. So you might have as much funding from outside, but if the community is not gelling, you know, what we call bonding and bridging capital, if you don't have that, the funding might actually even be more dangerous. So you actually are probably one of the best suited organizations to be located in this philanthropic ecosystem, because you are already at a community level where there's a glue that puts everything together. And you know, we know philanthropy is really defined by the concept of Ubuntu. You are because I am, right? Your life is interdependent on mine. And that's what social movements have managed to get right. So I think you are really not lost. So don't worry. The next 3 days, you will actually identify exactly
Where
you don't have to sit anywhere. You don't have to sit anywhere, but you can see how you relate to others, because the space should be fluid. You shouldn't allow yourself to just sit there and say, this is where we sit. No. See where you relate and how you can relate with each of those. So you have donors. How do you relate with donors? You will have research institutions. How do you relate with research institutions? You will have community organizers like yourself. How do you relate with them, etc., etc. So that's the spirit that I would advise you to do as you engage in conversations with others. But thank you so much for making the time, Kamila. I'm really excited to have had the opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Zanele, thank you so much for, this is our second conversation, but thank you so much for making the time, because I'm talking to you now in your new capacity as head of programs at Slum Dwellers International.
Thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you, Paul. So that was Zanele Makombe, the head of programs at Slum Dwellers International, as well as Kamila, who is with the Slum Dwellers movement in Kenya. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the CAPSI podcast series, Conversations on African Philanthropy.